to The Lion Show. I'm your host, your favorite business coach, Robert Lyon, and we have the great privilege of having Vince Warnock here. He's a serial entrepreneur, marketer, author, got a lot of cool stuff going on. So Vince, why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of tell everybody who you are and what you're all about.
Oh, mate, it's so good to be on the show. Thank you, Robert, for having me. If I go into my backstory, this is going to take like 3 or 4 hours, I think, because I've changed careers so many times. But originally, I'll give you a very fast track history lesson on me. Originally trained as an electronics computer and software engineer. Thought I was going to be the guy that made all the gadgets for James Bond and Batman. Found out that that's not a viable career option, and then discovered something else, which is, despite my love for technology, and I'm a huge technology buff, despite all of that, that wasn't what motivated me. What motivated me and what just got me out of bed every day was people, and it was understanding people, understanding behavior. So that led to a number of different shifts in my career. I ended up working on radio as an on-air announcer at one of our big radio stations here for a number of years. And then I discovered the great intersection between technology and human behavior, which of course is marketing, or digital marketing in particular, and fell into that, discovered I was relatively good at it. I used to do a lot of web design and web development stuff just because the technology angle. And I actually did a contract for someone one day. I met them in a pub with a bunch of others, and they were talking about this project that they had, and they were getting really depressed at the fact that every pitch they put out there to get this built was coming back at around $500,000, and they were like, man, we've invested so much in all the stuff we've done so far, we don't want to pay that. And I was like, $500,000, you're getting ripped off. I could do that for and I just pulled a number out of my head and went, $20,000. And I said, and to make it even better, I'd finish it in a weekend. And then they went, okay. And I went, oh, what have I done now? So I ended up doing that. I built that over a weekend, had to work out. I realized I had no idea what I was doing, had to work out how to do it, but technology and me, we get on really well. So I kind of hacked this thing, and because of the constraints I had, because of the lack of budget on that, and because of the time frame, I had to think really efficiently and really different. I had to make it super easy. So I built this interactive video. I built this thing, and we put it out there. It was a huge success. And then it won a whole pile of awards. And that started my career in digital marketing, where people were like, hey, man, can you replicate that for me? Or can you come work for us on this? And that's when I discovered that this is something I'm really passionate about and I really, really enjoy. So that then kind of led into a weird roller coaster of a journey where I've gone in and out of corporate life and entrepreneurship. So I was a freelancer doing web design. Then I ended up in the corporate environment, accidentally ended up working for government. That was a very short-lived thing where I realized, hey, wait a minute, I never planned this. What just happened here? And then finally gave all of that up to launch probably one of my biggest companies, which was Common Ledger. And this was a high-growth startup that we kind of sat on for about a year, me and my friend, my co-founder. We knew there was an opportunity there, but we wanted to make sure, both of us had small families or young families and things. We want to make sure if we do this, we do it right, and we can't jeopardize the health and the well-being of our families and things. But after just under a year, we realized all the market research we were doing were pointing to the fact that this could be a huge success. So we, at that point, had to bite the bullet and said, look, I think we need to do this. I sat down with my wife. We went to, this is a random fact, man, but we went to a kebab shop. The two of us, we realized we should never, ever go and get kebabs. Every single time we go to a kebab shop, we make a major life decision. And we're like, okay, I don't know what it is about Turkish food, but forget about it. We're never doing that again.
That's funny.
So we sat there and I said to my wife, look, this opportunity is too big. And I'd obviously taken her on the journey of this anyway. She knew what I was talking about. And I said, I really feel like now's the time for me to do this. But what it's going to mean is 6 months of absolutely no income from me. Right, because our plan would be, and I had this plan in my head of what we needed to do. I said, we need to actually build out the MVP of this, even if it's just a PowerPoint version of it, get it in front of customers, get people paying for it, get them really interested, biting at the bit for this, so that we can raise a seed round. And we knew that that's going to take around 6 months. So my wife looked at me and went, wow, that's interesting timing. And I said, why is that? And she was a trained early childcare teacher, but she had always felt this calling to help people with addictions. So both of us come from very interesting backgrounds, and we've had to deal with a lot of different people with issues and things through our life. And she really wanted to help as many people as possible. She's just a far better human being than me. She's amazing. So then we realized that would mean that she needs to, because she wanted to do this and she felt this is the right time for that. She felt like I finally can actually go back to school, retrain myself and do something different, even though it's scary, even though I feel like I can't learn anything new at my age and all this kind of stuff. So then we realized what that meant was actually for 6 months we would have no income, not a cent, because I would be building the business, she would be going back to school. And my wife just looked at me and said, yeah, but when have we never landed on our feet? And I'm like, that is exactly what I needed to hear. That meant that no matter what, the two of us are in this together. We will, if we have to live in a bus stop, we'd make it work. Our kids might be a little annoyed at that, but and the Christmas presents might be a little light at first, but the fact is we knew that we were together in this. We were in the trenches and it was going to be okay. So we did that, and 6 months rolled around. I raised $1 million worth of seed funding. We then went on a rapid journey of growth. It got to the point where I realized that, it was myself and my co-founder that started the company. We brought on board another couple of co-founders, and of all four of us, there was only one of us that you could really effectively put in front of potential customers without scaring them. And that was the marketing guy, which so happened to be me. So we ended up with me being on the road nonstop. And most of our clients, we're based in New Zealand. Most of our clients were in Australia and then US, UK, and a few other places. So I had to travel and travel and travel. And when you've got a family, that is really taxing. So suddenly this passion, this drive, this motivation to build this really cool company was starting to wane. And for me, something that was far more important than what I was building is the family that I was building, and it was providing the right environment for my kids and my wife. So I realized at that point, I think something needs to change. That all came to a head when I came home from Sydney one day, and my son sat me down on the couch and he said, "Hey Dad, can we have a chat?" I said, "Yeah, sure, mate." He was 12 at the time. And he goes, "Look, I know you're building a really good company, but I seriously think we need to spend more time together." And as a parent, that's a challenging thing to hear. It's also a really amazing thing to hear, because I'm like, we've built this relationship that is so open, and we can be emotionally honest with each other without, like, my son was just fine to have this conversation with me. But then the other half of me is just going, ouch.
Kids are a little honest.
Absolutely, man. So I made a point of it. I just said, actually, that's a really good thought. Hold that thought. Jumped on the phone, and my son's rolling his eyes like, oh, Dad's working again. But I rang my co-founders and said, hey, guys, I'm done. I'm out.
Wow.
We just crossed some major milestones as a business. Our valuation was through the roof. I was the majority shareholder, so I said, I'll stay as the majority shareholder, but you can hire someone to replace me. I need to spend more time with my family. And that was an amazing feeling. Hilarious, because my co-founder's swearing the head off at the other end of the phone for me, going, wow, we'll talk Monday, bye. Hang up the phone. But then the next, I just felt that weight lift off me, of the pressure of doing that startup. And then the next morning, I freaked out, man. I was like, wait, we need groceries. You can't actually, and this was a revelation to me. Apparently, you can't buy groceries with equity. You can't go down to the supermarket and go, hey, I'll give you shares in my company in exchange for these groceries, because they just look at you funny. So that's when I realized I need to go back into the corporate world and get a job. And that's when I also realized that every corporate job I'd never applied for. I'd always be headhunted. So I suddenly was in a position of going, crap, how do you do a CV and a cover letter, and how do you apply for a job, and where do you even look? And so I was on a massive Google bender that day, just finding everything I could. And that eventually led me to taking the role at Cigna, as first of all the head of digital, and then becoming, of course, the chief marketing officer there. And through that process, we then sold Common Ledger, which was an emotional roller coaster in itself. But honestly, when you see your bank balance at the end of that, you're like, I'm okay with that emotional roller coaster. It's all good. So I took the role as CMO in Cigna, and that ended in January / February of 2020. So just pre-COVID, by the way. Perfect time to get out of a corporate. But the reason for that was I was feeling that pull again. And anyone listening to your show, any of the entrepreneurs, they know what I'm talking about. When you're an entrepreneur, you can only be in corporate life for so long without suddenly it's like, oh, I'm feeling that urge. I need
Get me out of here.
I need to do this. I need this. Oh, so that started this thing. I really knew that it was time for me to move on. I really wanted to write my next book. So I felt a kind of big urge and a calling to write it, and knew that I was never going to get the time to write it as CMO. So I made the decision to leave and focus on writing my book. That very quickly changed into writing 2 books at the same time, because I'm a moron. And also, it led to me launching the podcast, which is a passion project for me. Doing a virtual summit, accidentally launching a coaching career. That was crazy. It turns out when people find out you're leaving Cigna and you now have time on your hands, they're like, help!
Yeah.
I need you to help me. I'm like, I had no idea. So I launched that, and then of course now I'm about to launch another virtual summit, which is really exciting, and of course launch my group program, which is going to enable me to impact even more entrepreneurs, which is super exciting for me. So there you go, man. That in a nutshell is my crazy journey in the last few years, all condensed into just a few.
Yeah, man. It took me on a roller coaster right
Oh
there.
yeah.
You did it all, man. It's funny. I talked to a lot of business owner entrepreneurs, and you did it, where they build this big business and then they realize, oh, I have to run this business. It's
Yes.
Let me get out of here. And then I don't know what it would be like in Cigna being the chief of marketing. What would a day in that life of having that much budget to market something so crazy in such a huge world?
A day pretty much consists of 24 hours when you're in a role like that, because you don't switch off. But essentially, in that kind of role, you are in consistent meetings, consistent pressure, consistent challenges, and this is the thing that a lot of people miss is, it's really easy to criticize or condemn the C-suite executives because they have a cushy life, they're traveling all the time, and we did a lot of that, a lot of traveling, visiting, insurance brokers and agents all around the country and things, and you do stay in good hotels and you eat very well. My waistline certainly did not appreciate the effect of that. But you do enjoy life a bit. But at the same time, you are dealing with the next level of kind of pressure. When you're looking at the runway, you're looking at the external factors like global, even before the global pandemic, things like that, things like recessions, dollar values, all these kind of things that you normally wouldn't consider as a marketer. All of these kind of additional pressures and things, and having to downsize the company or upsize or buy another company. And we had just gone through, when I took the role as Chief Marketing Officer, we were in the process of buying another company the same size as ours. So we actually doubled the company size, tripled our customer base. And then I had to make tough decisions on my own team, going, actually, some of these people are not right for where I'm going. And nothing wrong with any of them, but they're not the right people to head to where we're heading now, which is a different direction. And that's some tough calls, man.
Oh, for sure.
So that's what it kind of consisted of, is a lot of those kind of hard decisions, a lot of meetings. Oh my goodness, it's and a lot of travel as well. But the other thing I did discover, and this is what I learned about myself, is I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
And by that I mean I'm the type of person that I'm really passionate about helping people. Like, honestly, I know I charge for my services as a coach and things like that, but I give up a lot of my time for free for people as well. Yeah. I do a lot of one-to-one coaching calls where I usually give someone the first coaching call for free, just so I can help them, set them on the right path at least. Even if they're not the right person to be coached by me, or I'm not the right person to coach them, at least I can impact them in some way. And when you're at that level at a C-suite, you really don't, you're far removed from the impact.
Right, you're just making decisions and then things happen.
And you almost whittle down, and this sounds really crass, and this is not a negative reflection on C-suite and not a negative reflection on Cigna, because they're amazing people, and I love the leaders I used to work with. But the reality is you do have to think of people as dollar values and as numbers. Yeah. And to me, that's not how I'm wired. Right. Yeah. There are other people that are wired that way, and that's fine. It's awesome for them. But for me, it felt really disingenuous. I felt like I was operating as somebody that I wasn't. That was a very exhausting kind of part of the role, because when you're operating as someone like outside of who you actually are, it expends a lot of energy. And you just constantly feel like, and imposter syndrome got its teeth into me hardcore. Constantly felt like a fraud and like I couldn't do this, But despite evidence showing otherwise, despite the runs that you get on the board, the successes you have, your brain just plays tricks on you. So I'm not cut out for that, I've discovered.
You're on newer pastures, man.
Exactly. And full disclosure, when I say I'm not cut out for it, I can do it, and I can do it well. And I did do it well. But the reality is it's not where I'm happy, and it's not where I feel fulfilled. I need to be helping people, which is why what I'm doing now is so incredibly fulfilling. I feel guilty saying this. 2020 was such a good year for me.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I had a blast, man. Yeah. I mean, even first when I left there just to write a book, and then the pandemic hit and everyone goes into lockdown, I was like, I mean, poor guys.
Got time to read my book. Yeah.
Yeah. Your problem now, guys. Good luck to you. One of my colleagues actually reached out to me. He goes, "You dick."
Well, yeah, it definitely looks like you've taken on like the personal brand and like not even personal, chasing the insight, and you've done the right things. You know, you got the book, you got the podcast. You know, where do you see this going, or what are you trying to achieve really with the whole brand?
Wow, that's a big question, and it's not, believe it or not, it's not something I've given that much thought to, and by that I mean 2020 for me was a year where I decided I was going to be open to opportunity. And I was going to be open to trying different things. I was going to be, like I did a virtual summit literally because someone said, "Hey, you should do a virtual summit." And I went, "Okay." So I put it out there on social and said, "I'm doing a virtual summit in 6 weeks' time. It's going to have 30 speakers from around the world, and the topic is going to be blah." And then all of a sudden everyone's responding, going, "Whoa, I'm in. Oh, this will be awesome." And I went, "Crap, I better quickly work out how to do a virtual summit."
Honestly, you said virtual summit, and I was like, I should do a virtual summit. It's addictive now.
I tell you the secret, man. Put it out there on social. I did the same with the podcast. I've been wanting to do a podcast for like a couple of years. And it wasn't until I put it out there and said, "Guys, I'm launching a podcast. It's going to be called Chasing the Insights. It's going to be where I interview all leaders in marketing and entrepreneurship and sales to help businesses and entrepreneurs move the needle for their business." Boom. As soon as I did that, I couldn't back out of it because that would be really embarrassing. So I had to very quickly learn how to launch a podcast. I had to very quickly find my first lot of speakers. I'm like, but it was, as with all of those kind of decisions, one of the best things I've ever done.
Nice.
I know you and I have talked about we love our podcast. We love our audience.
Right.
I'm going to let your listeners in on an inside secret here. Seriously, Robert loves you guys to bits, man. Like, you should hear him talk about you. But it's just like, so I kind of kept it as a year of opportunity and a year of saying yes to a lot of things. But then one of the things that made me realize is I want to impact as many people as possible. I have this like deep sense of satisfaction when I see entrepreneurs break through. Mm-hmm. When I see them, particularly one of my clients, I'm just gonna, I won't name him because I'll embarrass him. But one of my clients came to me and he's so damn good at what he does, like incredibly good at what he does. He was a vendor of mine when I was at Cigna. Like, we would use him amongst a number of different companies and things. And when I left there, he approached me to coach him. And I was like, okay, so we worked through what that would look like and everything. And one of the first things I realized is I need to get him to be able to pitch his story, but like pitch his business and tell his story and things. So we sat down and I said, "Okay, why are you so passionate about what you do?" And he goes, "Oh, because it makes really good money." And I'm like, "Oh, dope." That's not the right answer. Okay. Why do you love working with the clients you love working with? And these are just a couple of initial questions I asked him. And he goes, "Oh, because I really like, creating good quality stuff." I went, okay. So I created this system called the Beat system, where I just went, okay, and I asked him all these different questions about his past and questions about his memories on different things. And every time you're asking him these, you're unlocking this like latent passion that's in there about what he does. And the way he talks about it, I look at what fires him up, and we write these up as beats on the board. And then when we had finished, we were crafting this story about why he does what he does. And it's all come from him. It's just he's never been able to articulate it before. So anyway, I gave this to him, and he went away, and he's been practicing it. His wife got sick of him pitching his own company to her, but he came back to me, and we were covering off some other stuff. And he goes, "Before we do this, I really want to tell you my story." I went, "Sure." And he goes, "So you interview me," and I'm going to interview him on my podcast, actually. So I pretended I was interviewing him, and he so articulately told his story about why, like he remembered back to when he was a child, and he would go to the movies with his father and his brother, and how this would bring them together, and how it would be a shared experience for them. And then he remembers the time when he was on his OE, where he would see these people's lives and their stories that were never told, but the opportunity to be able to help all these people and tell their stories. And by the time he was finished, I'm sitting there, I'm deadpan, man. I was trying not to show any emotion, because on the inside I'm going, "Hold it together, Vinny, hold it together." I was so proud and so emotional and so moved by his story. It was one of the most satisfying things I'd seen in a long while. It was just so powerful. So that, to me, that gets me out of bed every single day. Seeing businesses during a pandemic double their revenue because they tap into something that's really unique about themselves and tap into what their audience loves about them. Or seeing people pivot because They didn't realize why people actually buy from them. They thought they just bought their product, but actually it was so much more than that. And seeing the successes they gain. So all of these different things get me out of bed every day. So one of the things I've realized as we kind of went into Christmas is what's next for me. And the biggest thing was, how do I scale that impact? And that's why I'm putting together my group program, which is launching at the end of February. Shameless plug here.
Yeah, no.
My group program, which is really about me being able to reach more entrepreneurs and to help them. I've got my framework. I call it the EARN method, the EARN method, where I take them through these kind of 4 stages of being able to tell their story and to be able to convert their customers and to scale not only upwards, but also outwards. So not just get more customers on board and sell more product or offering or whatever it is you do, but how do you add more value to those customers and gain more value back from them? So how do you get that deeper connection with them? And so this whole program is a 3-month accelerator program, basically, to take them through this framework and to support them and give them marketing reviews and all the things that, as entrepreneurs, you go, so I've done my messaging. I don't want to put it out there because it could be crap. Now they've got someone they can put it past and go, hey, can you give me feedback on this? And I give them UX feedback and everything else as well. It's just, so that's what's next for me, is really about scaling that impact and reaching more people. Plus, of course, this year I'm going to be launching my 2 books, which I'm really excited about. And just quietly, not related to my business, 2 children's books as well, which I wrote with my family years ago, but I finally got around to finishing that, and I'll be putting them out there in the world. So it's going to be crazy year, man. So who knows at the end of this year what it's going to look like? I have no idea, but I just know it's going to be epic and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I was some quote, but it's like everybody is just growing up children, and children love stories. So I think you're on the right line of selling with stories, and I think that's really the future. And building 100%. Brands that have stories too, that are deeper. That's where you can point,
well, it just, oh man, you're pushing all my buttons now. This is excellent. There's so much to what you just said there, and 100%, in fact, 150%, just to annoy all the accountants in the audience. 150% agree with you. But the thing is, it's not even just about selling through stories or anything. Really, it really is the power of storytelling and what that does for you as a brand. And this is the thing. Like, I look at my own life, and I'll try and think of a really good example here. Oh, artwork is a great example, right? I'm a huge fan of art. So we will buy art, but we don't just buy art that we like, and we don't just buy art by a specific artist, because we've only got a certain amount of wall space that we can put things on. So, the more art we get, we're going to have to put a lot more in storage. But one thing that really resonates with me is art that has a story behind it. Right. When you understand what the artist was going through, you feel a connection to that artist. So therefore, that piece that they've created is so much more powerful than just some other piece that happens to look really, really good. So for me, it's not just about, does it look aesthetically pleasing, or is it from some fine art artist or anything, or is it got some value? It's actually the story behind it that's far more powerful. And as entrepreneurs, that's the way you are going to differentiate yourself in market. And I do a lot of work with a lot of entrepreneurs where one of the first barriers I think they have to get over is they look at what they're doing. So say, for example, what are they doing? Say, for example, they're a trainer that teaches people how to use Instagram. So immediately they're going to go, well, yeah, but my problem is there's 10, 20,000 other trainers out there that teach people how to use Instagram, or probably 100,000. Mm-hmm. So they feel like they are one of many. But what they miss there is they are one of one. Because it doesn't matter that other people may offer similar services to you. You are the only you. You are very unique in that you come with your own experience, your own learnings. You come with your own sense of humor, your own personality, your own DNA, your own scars that you carry. You come with all of these different things that make you so uniquely you. And for you, the way that you teach Instagram will then be different from everybody else. What you bring to the table and the people that you inspire is going to be so much different from what other Instagram trainers will offer. So based on that, your product is incredibly unique because you are the only one that offers the one that is designed by you. So that's kind of the first barrier we have to get over. And then the way that you differentiate that is through stories. And I just love, we're going to go for hours if I'm not careful here, because I get so overexcited about stories. But the power of storytelling, like, first of all, we need to understand that our brains are actually hardwired to receive stories. So if you look, like, go way back, I don't know, caveman days, whatever, dinosaurs. I know that wasn't really a thing. They didn't walk the earth with dinosaurs, but yeah, my history is a little bit skewed there towards Jurassic Park. But the fact is, back in those days, that's how we shared history. That's how we taught people. They didn't have the internet.
Well, that's how you survived.
Exactly. We told stories to other people. And so what happens is our brains, just from a, I've forgotten the word, anthropological point of view, that
sounds good.
Yeah. But our brains are hardwired that when someone tells a story, we open up our brain. We almost, in fact, at Stanford, they're talking about this concept of, they're calling it a mind meld, just because they're giant Star Trek fans. But in reality, it's this neural connection that happens between the storyteller and the person that's receiving the story. In fact, this is why I love movies so much. This is why I love Marvel movies and Star Wars, man. Like, anytime I'm watching a Marvel movie or Star Wars, I'm not just watching a story unfold on the screen. I am feeling what they're feeling. I'm going on the same emotional roller coaster that they are. I'm feeling the same things that they are. Right. So that creates something really powerful. And in us, it often creates a personal connection with the storyteller. So even if you're not in the physical room, if you're in movies, for example, I feel this pseudo-social connection between myself and Princess Leia, because when I was 7 years old, she was my first girlfriend. She didn't know I existed, and I was in love with her as a young child. So that's how it works. But because I felt what she felt, I felt her empathy towards others, but I felt her strength, and I felt how powerful she was as a woman. All of these different attributes that kind of attracted me to her. So I look at that and I go, okay, I created a pseudo-social connection there. So we're hardwired to receive stories. But then there's another element in there, and this is what I teach a lot of people when I'm going through the Beats method, is the personal aspect of storytelling does something else in the recipient. So, for example, the guy I was talking about who told his story about why he does what he does, one of the first things he does is he talks about remembering being a child and remembering that experience with his father and with his brother. Now, immediately what that does to you when you hear that story is you've got this thing called the reptilian brain, the crocodile brain. Basically, it's your defensive mechanism in your head. It's the thing that's there to protect you. So when someone's telling you something, or particularly if you're ever on LinkedIn for more than 2 seconds, the spam that you get on LinkedIn, your defensive brain's immediately going, warning, warning, warning. They're just trying to take money from you. They're just trying to sell you something. But when you're hearing vulnerability in a story, you're hearing this guy articulate what it was like to be a child, that reptilian brain just immediately goes, oh, hang on, this is actually a safe space. The storyteller is telling me something that's personal, something that's vulnerable, something that is unique to him. So therefore, I'm not required. So your brain just goes, okay, crocodile brain, you go sit in the corner in fetal position. I don't need you. If I need you, I'll call on you. Right now, I'm going to be open to what this person is talking about, to what they're teaching, and eventually to what they're selling as well. So, man, it's so powerful. Yeah.
That was enlightening. That was a value.
I told you, if you push my buttons on these things, man, I can talk for hours on them. I love this stuff to bits, man.
No, I love it too, and you have a very good perspective, and I really appreciate that for sharing. So that's so cool. So you basically have clients come in and you help them kind of craft their story? Is that like a skill that you do it?
It's a core part of what I do. So I like I said, I take them through a framework, and the first. So it's the earn method. The first of that is E, which is examine. And really, this is where we have to dig into a number of different things. So there's no point trying to market your business if you don't truly know who you are and what you're trying to build. Right. So in the examine part of the process, we examine the type of company they want to build, but we examine who they are as an entrepreneur as well. Right. So, what's their archetype? What motivates them? Why are they doing what they're doing? Like what gets them out of bed in the morning and things. And as part of that, we also examine their customer, by the way, their target market. We deeply understand the questions, the objections, the fears. In fact, we go beyond. We're always taught things like demographic targeting and even sociographic targeting and psychographic targeting. But I want to go to a different layer, which is thinkographic, which is just a term I made up to sound intelligent. But really, it is about trying to get into the head of your target market and understand all the questions that they would have. Understand that the things that cause them to go, oh, hang on, hesitate for a moment. Or the things that were kind of jarring to them as well. When you understand all of this, that is going to give you an infinite supply of content that you can create for them. It's going to give you an infinite way. In fact, it's going to give you the very words that you need to be able to market to them. because they'll give that to you. They'll tell you what their concerns are, what their fears are, what their objections are, and those become the actual key points that you put into your marketing. So it's really powerful stuff. But part of the outworking of this examine stage of the process is really looking at your pitch and your story. It's being able to articulate what you do and why you do what you're doing. And honestly, once they're even just nailing that aspect there, is going to take most entrepreneurs really, really far. And then we go into the A, the R, and the N, which, it's such an exciting process, man.
Yeah. No, man, like, you got to tell me, what is the A, the R, and the N now? You got to at least tell me what they stand for.
All right. Yeah. I wasn't fishing for that at all. No, I wasn't dramatically pausing for you to say that. Look, the A is for assemble. So under E, you really get a deep understanding of yourself and your customers and your business. But then you need to put together the pieces. And I didn't just call it assemble because I'm a giant Marvel fanboy, but hey, maybe. But this is where you put the pieces together. So we audit your social profiles. We put those we'd be able to articulate the story that we crafted in the E section, put that into your social profiles, your website, your landing pages, your messaging, your sales scripts, your everything. But also exactly. But then also from that, we actually create your own content marketing machine. So the idea is we can turn the why of what you're doing, all the stuff we learned in E, we can turn that into just consistent content that serves your potential customers. So we put all those pieces together under A, and that leads beautifully into the next stage, which is R. And I'm embarrassed to say that stands for raise the roof. The fact is, as a marketer and entrepreneur, you really need your own framework, so you need an acronym. And I really like to earn an acronym. I couldn't think of another word to describe R. So.
I like it too.
But really, that is about scaling upwards.
Right, you can raise your standards.
Exactly. So this is really the onus now is on the entrepreneur. So at this stage for R, I give them the tools that they need, but then also I give them the support they need. So really it's about them now doing the hard yards. It's about them generating more leads. It's getting out there on social and talking to people. It's about being able to respond to people, turn those into prospects, turn them into customers, etc. And then from that, I do, like I said, marketing reviews in there. So any of the content, any of the emails, any of the sales scripts, all of those kind of things I will review for them, optimize for them, and they can experiment and try different things. And then also I give them support and ideation. So like one of the things that every entrepreneur faces is we hit the wall from time to time where we put something out there and it's just not working. Or, we'll create a package, we'll create a product, we'll create something, and just for some reason it's not resonating with people. So at this point, one of the key things to do is get really creative and ideate different solutions, different things you can test, and help them to think different on it. So that's the raise the roof part of it. And then we get into the part that I love so much, which is N, and that's next level. And this is broken into two kind of key areas. One of those, like I said, R is about scaling upwards. Next level is about scaling outwards. So this is where you're looking at how you're serving your customers. What are you actually providing for them? How can you provide more value to them? And in exchange, of course, you will get more value back from them. How do you turn them into rabid fans of yours? How do you turn them into affiliates where they're actually out there selling your services because they believe in what you do so much? But also in this layer, like this whole next level layer of the acronym of the program really is a creativity layer. It's really where you get to think different and you get to try new things. And we've got a whole pile of processes around this and things as well. But it's also in that next level piece, it's around thought leadership. And this is something that I cover loosely in the program itself, but I also have, I'm launching some products and some programs later in the year around really digging into this even deeper. But this is where I help entrepreneurs to position themselves in market as thought leaders, as that next level. And this is usually for the more experienced marketer, but it's around getting them to be published authors, getting them to launch their own podcast or at least appear on as many podcasts as possible, how to frame their content and how to frame it as what they do, how to create their own platforms, their own like structures and things like that as well, to position themselves as thought leaders. And this kind of came about by mistake, if I'm honest. A couple of people approached me and said, look, I really need help with this. I really need you to work with me on that. And I'm like, why me? I mean, I said it in a more articulate way, but I'm like, huh? You're approaching me about that? And then they said, yeah, well, I want what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
I want what you've done. And that's when I realized, actually, I'm very particular with my brand. I'm very strategic with what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
I know the impact that writing a book has. That's why I'm writing 2 books at the moment. I know the impact that appearing in different industries and different markets and being positioned for what you do and how you contribute to your industry. All of those things are very, very deliberate and very important to me. Even down to, no joke, when I'm approaching even when I was at Cigna, when we were doing a project, like for example, we were doing this big AI project where we were creating this virtual assistant. So one of the key things I would do is I would look at how we're building, not just wanting to build this, but I would look at the story behind that. I would look at the way that we're challenging how we're doing things in the industry, because each of those is also going to position not just me, but Cigna and all of my team as thought leaders as well. So when you realize that you've done this for years and you just didn't realize it, that's when you realize, okay, I need to create something from this. I need to help other people do this as well. So yeah.
Is everybody in New Zealand as smart as you, man?
They're all way smarter, man. I'm the
You're the one guy. No, and there was definitely some gold nuggets, man. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Oh,
Well, that's so cool. Now I want to earn. I think you got everybody pumped up.
That's why I love the acronym, man. People can go, I want to earn. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, shit. And tell me a little bit about your podcasting and how you're bringing everything together. I'd like to just hear
Sure, man. Well, I kind of look at what I'm doing in 3 layers. So I talk about that. Like there's the free layer. This is the easy, accessible layer, and this is because I really do want to help a lot of people, as many entrepreneurs as I can. But not every entrepreneur fits my top layer, which is my one-to-one coaching or my group program. Not every entrepreneur is right for that, but I can still impact a lot of people down here. So for that's about the virtual summits that I create. That's about the Facebook group I have where I support entrepreneurs in there. We do weekly challenges and cool stuff like that. Cool. But it's also the podcast. And it's being able to talk to people in the industry who can give you their insights, who can talk through what they've learned over their journey. And that way you don't have to make the same mistakes they make, because guess what? Every entrepreneur makes mistakes. Everyone who's ever succeeded has a string of failures behind them as well, unless they're a freak. But you can learn from all of those mistakes and all of the things that they've learned over their years. So I really want to give every entrepreneur that kind of unfair advantage, essentially, to be able to kind of move the needle for their business. So that's the free layer. And then I get into the easily accessible layer. And this is the ones where I get them to support it through paying for it. So I have what I call the Insiders Club. So this is it's kind of a way for people to support the podcast. Basically, they pay $10 a month US, and they get access to the video versions of the podcast. But they also get additional content from each of the speakers I have on there. So we do these mini workshops with each of the speakers. They get masterclasses from me. They get downloads. They get weekly tips on SEO and all these kind of things as well. So they get content that's going to help them to dive even deeper. And in exchange, they pay for that. I also do short courses and paid workshops in this layer as well, where it's low ticket items, but it's about taking that free layer, that huge pool of entrepreneurs that I want to impact, and it's picking the ones who want to go a bit deeper and bringing them into that layer there. And then from there, it's the ones who really are serious about wanting to move the needle for their business. And then for that layer, that's my VIP layer, essentially. I have the group program, which I'm launching, and I have the one-to-one coaching. And I'm very particular about who I work with. But I would encourage people, if they are interested, to reach out, obviously. But I'll make sure that I'm the right fit, because not every coach is the right fit for every entrepreneur. And if I'm not the right fit for you, then that's really dishonest for both of us. It's going to be a waste of both times. So I look at how I can help people and where I can get the most impact. So that's the kind of 3 layers that I do there around that. But that the core part of that is that free layer, which is the podcast. And this for me was a passion project. Like I said, I used to work on radio. I was on air announcer for years. That was actually my dream job. I remember when I was 7 years old, man, I built a crystal radio set, and I used to listen to these DJs, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're getting paid to play music and to hang out with cool people and joke around all day. This must be like the ultimate job. So for years and years, I wanted to do it, and then finally I was approached to work on one of our biggest radio station here. So I jumped on board and discovered it was mostly what I hoped for. It was such an enjoyable job. I loved working on radio. The thing that I didn't love was the lack of pay, because it didn't matter how high up you are in radio. Radio pays abysmally, guys. Like, I'm sorry, it's a terrible career choice. You genuinely have to have something on the side to be able to kind of get enough income to pay your rent, you know. So at that point, I realized I was making more money freelancing than I was on radio, and something had to give. So I gave up radio, which was heartbreaking, but you know, it was necessary. And besides, as much as I hate to say this, radio was on the way out anyway. You know, not many people listen to radio anymore. But then fast forward to now, and podcasting. Oh my goodness, I love podcasts. I'm addicted to them. I listen to podcasts every day. I love to fuel my brain and fuel my creativity, and that's what podcasts do for me. So I was like, oh, this is it. I need to be on podcasts. I need to have a podcast. But it wasn't, and I wanted to do this for a couple of years, but it wasn't until I was interviewed on the digital marketing podcast earlier last year. And I remember off air talking with the host, and he just said, dude, I'm just going to put it out there. When are you going to launch your podcast? And I was like, what? I was playing coy. What do you mean I've never thought about launching a podcast? He goes, yeah, whatever. He goes, look, the fact is I would listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
I love your unique take on things. I love the rapport you build with people. I want more of this. So that was a wake-up call for me. I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to have to just do this. And then, of course, COVID hit, lockdown happened, all these kind of things. And I thought, you know what? I want to come out of COVID with something really special that I've launched. So it's going to be a podcast. So I did exactly what I did with the summit. I put it out there on social. I said, I'm launching a podcast in 6 weeks' time. I'm going to call it Chasing the Insights, which was the name of my first book. It's going to be interviews with all these people. It's going to help entrepreneurs across the planet to move the needle for their business. And the response I got was phenomenal. People were like, oh, man, this is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Let us know. And I'm like, okay, all right. Now I just realized I have no idea what I'm doing. So I had to quickly find out how to host a podcast, how to host one, how to create one, how to record the audio properly, all these kind of things. And honestly, it was the best decision I've ever made. I mean, you know this, I'm preaching the converted here, but podcasting is so much fun. You get to meet incredible people from all over the world. You get amazing feedback from listeners like all of your listeners, you know, who genuinely are impacted by what you're putting out there and the people you have on the show. And I just think that is incredibly fulfilling and worthwhile. So when I launched on August 20th, and I did two things. I said, right, I'm gonna do a weekly show. So I'm gonna put out one episode per week. And you know, being a digital marketer, I thought, right, okay, I need to find a target for myself. So I was like, right. So I went to stats everywhere, and I went to Libsyn. They had some good stats out there, and they had an interesting stat there, which was the average number of downloads per episode that would put you in the top 50% of podcasts. Now, full disclosure, that is a vanity metric. That means diddly squat in the bigger scheme of things, right? It's not about numbers like that. It's about how many people you're impacting. But I had to aim for something. So I thought, I want to set a target for myself. So I thought, right, 3 months in, so after one quarter, I want to hit that mark. I want to be able to say I'm in the top 50%, and I wouldn't put it out there publicly, but I'm going, you know, I want to be in that number so that I know that I've achieved something there. And I knew I was going to be very strategic about this. You know, people I have on my show, I know that they've got audiences that they share their stuff with. I knew that they would grow through that as well. Plus my market, I mean, I'm a marketer, for goodness sake, this is what I do.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, okay, I can do this. It's a stretch goal, but I can achieve it. Well, on the 3-month anniversary of the show, I looked into the stats, and I'll pretend here I'm not regularly looking at the stats because I'm always looking at them getting.
Yeah, I was going to say, sure.
Yeah. But I remember looking at in that 3-month mark and realizing that I was 15 times what I had aimed for.
Wow.
It had gone way faster and way bigger than I anticipated, which is awesome. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Although it did make me slightly depressed, because I realized I'm really bad at forecasting. When you're a digital marketer, it's a little bit embarrassing, but you know what? It's a good problem to have. I'm okay. But also the feedback I got from people, and I still remember there's a woman in Canada. She's just incredible, and she had launched her own business, and she was going through this stuff, and she heard both a speaker that I had on my podcast, but also in my first virtual summit, and she emailed me and said, look, I want you to know how much this impacted me. And she goes, like, the journey that this guest that you had on the show, the journey that they went on, And this woman I had on the show had been fired multiple times from corporate life because she was a woman and they didn't like the fact that she actually said her mind, and not in a rude way, but just in a, hey guys, I really think this would be a good idea. But their view of her was she should sit in the corner and be quiet because she's a woman, because that apparently still exists in this world, despite the fact that how horrible that is. But anyway, so I'm going to rant in a second. But she talked about her journey of getting fired 3 times, of going home and finding her husband had walked out on her, going back to work. This is the 3rd time she got fired. She went back to work and somebody said to her, "Oh, you're not yourself. I'm just dealing with this stuff." "Oh, typical woman, you're fired." And she drove away from there, sat in her car, crying her eyes out and going, "My goodness, I'm such a loser. I'm such a failure. No one will ever employ me again. I can't believe I'm this bad." And she heard this. She said, "I'm not into woo-woo, but I heard this little voice in my head just go, 'Are you ready to be yourself now?'" And then since then, she has built this empire, man. She's an incredible human being. And she helps so many women to find their voice and to, she calls living out loud. So they get to live out loud and be themselves and things like that. But just hearing that journey and that story impacted this woman so much that she said to me, "Look, not many people know this, but in December of the previous year, I was fired. I was a star employee. I was a high achieving employee, but we got a new manager in who just didn't connect with me at all. For some reason, he didn't like me. So I suddenly found myself fired, and I couldn't really talk to people about that because I felt like such a failure." Like, she told her husband, obviously, and he supported her. He's an amazing guy as well. He supported her through it, but she couldn't really be as emotionally honest as she needed to be about it and say how it impacted her. And hearing this journey that this woman, Kelly, had gone on, she was like, "I'm not alone, and I need to talk about this." So she sent me the post that she had drafted, and she said, "I'm putting this out there." And it was really talking about the journey that she went on. And in doing so, and I've kept in touch with her, she's amazing. In doing so, it has unlocked so much for her business because she's not carrying all that emotional baggage now. I mean, she's still got healing to go through. She still has PTSD from some of the crap she had to deal with. But the reality is she's getting all these breakthroughs. That one piece of feedback made every effort I did in 2020 worthwhile. Like, hearing the breakthrough she got made the podcast. And in fact, it was at that point, because it was at the time of the summit, I decided, screw this. From that feedback, I'm doing 2 episodes per week. So now I've doubled down on the podcast. I do 2 episodes a week, and I'm just absolutely loving it. So it's the best decision I've ever made, man. Plus, I've got to meet some of the coolest people in the world. Like, seriously, some of the guests I've had on there have gone on to not just be friends, but to be really good friends. In fact, one of them calls me 3 damn times a day. Having to say to her, hey, we're in different countries, okay? It's 2:00 in the morning. Just calm down, for goodness sake. but no, they're just incredible people and really supportive as well. We've got to help each other to grow our businesses and grow our networks, and it's just awesome, man.
Fantastic. Well, we're all in this together, so it's good to hear, you're helping people,
Definitely, man.
Having some impact.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really, really appreciate it.
Any chance to talk to you, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Just let everybody know, like, the best way to reach you and to get in contact. And
Oh, sure. I'll make it really, really easy for you. Just go to chasingtheinsights.com. And that's where the podcast is. You'll see all the links to your favorite platforms on there if you listen on Apple or Spotify. You can also get a copy of my book there as well. But also there's a link there to my Facebook group and to me on social. And I'm always on social, guys. Just reach out. I'm quite approachable. I'm not a monster. I don't bite much, unless you really want me to. But no, I'm always open to new connections, meeting new people, and helping people wherever I can. So just reach out to me on social. Check out the website, chasingtheinsights.com. I'd love to meet all of you.
Fantastic. Well, do you have another book coming out? You said you're writing another one?
I actually have 2 books coming out, man. So
you actually mentioned those, and then we'll...
Yeah. So I've got they're 2 very different books in the sense that my first book's all about digital marketing and experimentation and the mindset required for that. But the next book, the one I'm really passionate about, this one will come out. This is actually my second book, but will come out after my 3rd book because I'm weird. But mainly because I really want to do a good job on this book. It's a passion thing for me. But it's called Anti-Perfect, and it really is about helping people to rewire their brain. Basically, create a new operating system for your brain to deal with imposter syndrome, to deal with self-doubt, to deal with all the things that plague us as entrepreneurs, the self-sabotage things. So it's a way for us to deal with all of that and put our best foot forward. And despite how you feel, despite the fear, despite all of these different things, to be able to press in and do it anyway and keep turning up until you succeed. So I'm really excited about that book. That's going to be amazing. But then the other one was actually came about from a joke, believe it or not. I was moaning to my wife because I'm known for certain things in the marketing industry. Like there are certain things that I've created that agencies here use or in Australia use. There's certain things that I've contributed over the years. And the problem is all of them, they're all great fun and good value to the industry, but none of them are worth writing an entire book on. And I said, it's just kind of a shame. It'd be awesome to have like these 13 different books on all these subjects. And she goes, yeah. Now to clarify, she was being sarky with me because she's always lots of fun. Being sarky with me, she said, yeah, it's almost like you need to put them all together in one book and call it, I don't know, 13 underground marketing secrets. Ha ha ha. And I went, that's so lame. We chuckled. And then I'm like, damn it, that's actually really good. And then I had to go to her and admit that it was her idea. So I'm putting together that book now. So that both of those are going to be launched this year. I'm just going to get the timing right. They're mostly finished anyway. Get the timing right for the launch. But yeah, super excited about both of those.
Those are freaking cool, man. And do you have like a whole team for your podcast and your books and your authoring, or is it just you? Or how are you doing it?
It was just me for a long while. But I have just hired my first 2 employees. So I have super talented VA, which ironically came about from me chatting with some friends and talking about the fact I was interviewing VAs from around the world. And I said, like, it's really frustrating because it takes so long for them to understand you and understand your DNA. Like one of them said to me, I'm going to do free of charge. I'm going to do you a brand board. So I'm going to take your brand and I'm going to take it to the next level. And I'm going to take it back to you. I'm like, okay, hey, this is really cool. They wanted to prove that they could add value to me. What they came back with was so offensive. Like, honestly, I looked at it and went, how little do you think of me? They changed my font to Comic Sans. I wanted to slap them, but I thought, no, I'm not a violent person. I will not slap them. So obviously that didn't work out. But I was talking with these friends. One of them is this incredibly talented marketer. And she just went, oh, so you're looking for someone to help you with all of this? I went, yeah. She goes, okay. She stood up. She walked over. We're all having a few drinks. Walked over to me and smacked me on the back of the head. And she goes, you moron. I went, what? And she goes, do you realize the one thing I want more than anything right now that I can't afford? And I went, what? And she goes, it's you to coach me. She goes, I want what you've created. I've always wanted this, but I'm not in a position to do that now. And you're saying there's an opportunity to work with you? You are dumb, Vince. I will do that for free. And I'm like, well, I'm not allowing you to do it for free. She goes, well, and then I realized the talent was right in front of me. So I brought her on board. So she's officially part of the team now, which is really exciting. Awesome. And also I have actually I won't disclose who the other one is just yet, but I've got a super talented person who I'm bringing on board the team, which will be announced very, very soon. I just don't want to spoil the surprise there. But yeah, her and I, we've been in non-stop meetings. We are biting at the bit to get this thing underway. It's going to be incredible. So it was just me for a long while. Did all the audio editing, all the marketing, all the email marketing, all of the getting guests together and everything like that, and then realized you're an idiot, Vince. Like people will be wanting to learn from you, but people will be wanting to work with you. Let's make it happen. So growing the team.
Yeah, I love that insight. Just like building a big enough brand where people are like, I want to work with you. You're crazy. It's great.
It's embarrassing though, because honestly, when she said that, I'm like, how did I not think of that? Seriously, how did I not realize that would be the case? I'm sitting there like a moron with my mouth open going, oh yeah.
It's a little bit of a little paradigm shift. That's great.
Yeah, totally.
Well, man, it's been so good talking to you, and you just dropped so much wisdom here, and I just really appreciate everybody listening. I'm sure they're real excited, and they're going to go check out your Facebook group and your books and everything else.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, man, and I think we'll just kind of wrap it up there. But you're incredible, man. Thank you.
Right back at you, Robert. Right back at you. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Peace.